Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Obviously, this is not the voice you're accustomed to. It's not Austin reading off the intro. It's Devin. Welcome back to the Makeshift Managers Prep Podcast. Today, we're brought to you by Devin and our friend Justin from Take It to the Hizzy podcast. How you feeling, Justin?
Feeling good. We got NBA Finals this week. We got a long wait till Thursday, but I'm excited. Had a nice little 3-day weekend. Finished up first segment of Stranger Things. Went and saw the new Top Gun. I'm having a good Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, I watched the first 2 episodes of Kenobi, and then I binged all of part 1 of Stranger Things season 4. If you haven't seen it, this is not a plug for Netflix, but get on it. The spoilers will be everywhere as soon as part 2's out.
I felt like it was a very good start. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. They came out swinging. But as Justin and I were talking, we got the official countdown to the NBA Finals started, so it's time for us to take a look back. Golden State versus Dallas. What a series, I guess, Justin. What were your thoughts from this drudging by the Warriors?
Dallas needs big men. They were blown out in the paint. Luka couldn't do it all. I mean, it was fun to see him pulling that game. What was it, Game 5 win? Yeah, Game 5 win, 119-109. Was nice to see, but it was really just a consolation prize. Golden State, they were everything that we thought they would be. Very efficient in transition, very good on defense, hitting open shots, and just committing just mental warfare on Dallas. Like the amount of possessions we saw Luka Doncic walking down the floor with his head down, and Golden State walks up the floor and hits an open 3 in transition. Like I just felt like Dallas was never really in this series. Golden State knocked the doors in, started the series 2-0. People were thinking, okay, this series shifts back to Dallas. This is their opportunity. They're going to do it. They did it up against the Suns. Why can't they do it up against Golden State? And Golden State is just a different beast. They're a very, very good basketball team, very intelligent team. Like their coach and Steve Kerr, I feel like everyone's bought into his culture and what he's looking to do on the floor. Dallas, they've got some work to do this offseason, but I think the future is still very bright. They just, they're a few moves away, I feel like.
Yeah, just looking at the rosters for the series, after Dallas beat Phoenix, I remember Game 7. I just got done with my engagement pictures with my fiance, so I was sitting at a restaurant getting dinner, and I checked my phone, and I was like, holy shit, Phoenix officially decided to not show up. Doncic is, whether you like it or not, he's going to be like a top 5 player coming into next year. He's that talented offensively. He has severe deficiencies defensively in terms of foot speed and just being able to defend teams' best players. But this Dallas team has a lot of questions, like you've said, the big man to be at the forefront. Whenever you're rolling out rosters, so I looked at the actual rotation for the Mavericks over the series. Their top guys in minutes played. It goes Reggie Bullock, Dorian Finney-Smith, Luka Doncic, Brunson, Dinwiddie, then Maxi Kleber. And then you go down to Dwight Powell. And it's extremely hard in the NBA, regardless of era, to win a playoff series if your starting center is the 6th guy in total minutes for your entire roster. Right. And while this Mavericks team did overachieve to a greater extent this postseason, if they refuse to add in the front court this offseason, they probably get left behind, because that's the biggest thing this offseason for any Western Conference team is whoever was good this year, if they're not good this year, they're going to be better. And the teams that were worse off this year have a really good chance at being better as well. I feel like the West is probably going to be 12 deep coming out of the offseason starting next year, which will obviously change as the season goes on and injuries pile up.
Right.
But Golden State proved to us why they're Golden State. To think that Golden State's dynasty has ever ended would be short-sighted, because they still have – think of them like a hydra. There's like 5 or 6 heads. You cut off one, another one grows back. The Warriors said, oh, man, Kevin Durant wants to leave. They go ahead and sign and trade for D'Angelo Russell. They figured out, wow, he does not fit this scheme of Golden State basketball. They flipped him in what I believe is the deal of the last 5 years in getting Andrew Wiggins and the draft pick that then became James Wiseman. They just don't miss, figuratively and literally most of the time. Sure, Klay Thompson was down for 2 years, but that could be the biggest blessing this roster has had since Kevin Durant was like, oh, there's a loophole in the salary cap. I'll come join you guys.
Those are the 2 years that they didn't make the finals, right?
Exactly, yeah, because that's the biggest thing.
So realistically, with Klay Thompson on the roster, healthy, they've made the final 6 out of the last 6.
Exactly. Yes. Klay Thompson has not missed the finals in his last years playing NBA basketball. And regardless of how old the stars are or how different the supporting cast may look, this is still the same blueprint that we've seen time and time again. And for
Right.
the first time since Kawhi Leonard beat them in the finals without a Kevin Durant and a Klay Thompson, Steph Curry's not going against the best player on the planet in the NBA finals. So they took care of business against Dallas. I was actually a little more optimistic on the front of Dallas to
Mhm.
begin the series. I thought they were going to be able to push to five, maybe not five,
Right.
6, or maybe even 7 on the best case scenario. They
Mhm.
were just too small. I did not expect Kevon Looney to be changing his name to Kevin in the greater Oakland area because he was playing like Durant most of those games in terms of just his presence and actually being a factor.
Very
Um,
underrated player.
very underrated UCLA product. Big fan of Kevon Looney, and he showed up in a big way. And Andrew Wiggins, for all of his faults, finally looked fully engaged in a way that I hadn't
Mhm.
seen for most of the regular season. And
Right.
so if you have Steph going at 100% capacity, you have Draymond quarterbacking the defense, there's just so many moving parts, and the parts that aren't even fully moving yet are super optimistic in my eyes because Jonathan Kuminga, he's one of the draft
Oh,
steals from this year's draft. Moses Moody, who I thought going in the lottery was a
solid.
really good pick at pick 14. They're adding
Mhm.
depth and they're adding youth in ways that they didn't have in the past. And while, yes, I'm not in love with Damian Lee or Juan Toscano Anderson or even Bielitsa, I don't expect them to be playing heavy minutes in this finals. And with the news that Gary Payton II could be back for game 1,
Mhm.
everything Warriors is trending up. So,
Don't forget about Jordan
congratulations.
Poole as well. He's a real
Oh, yeah.
pulse off the bench as a scorer. I mean, I know we'll get into the Boston Warriors conversation, but that may be something that Boston's missing
Yeah.
is like that real scoring pulse off the bench.
Yeah, that is a huge thing with this Warriors team because a thing with Klay Thompson that I have not been in love with since his injuries is
Mhm.
his consistency this season. A lot of the time he was playing to get his feet back under him, which is
Mhm.
understandable. You go down with an
Sure.
ACL and follow it up with your Achilles, you're not going to be up to speed for quite a while. But what the Warriors have in Jordan Poole is the perfect complement to whenever Clay's not on. So the rich get richer, I guess, is what I'm saying. It
Mhm.
seems they just don't miss with the draft picks. And my biggest thing with this Western Conference Finals win for me, I came into this postseason saying Golden State has a clear and definitive window with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. And now you can include Jordan Poole and Wiggins. Wiggins is
Mhm.
under contract. Poole is up, I believe, after next year. And he's going to be a restricted free agent. Ownership groups will only pay the luxury tax so many years that the team is winning. If they don't win the title this year, it's going to tighten up the money in a sense because why would Lacob and the ownership pay for a team that's not
Right.
going the distance? Not saying they wouldn't, but with them making the finals, I think the amount of patience for the young guys just grows immensely.
I also think in that same breath that even if Golden State somehow doesn't win the finals, that
Mhm.
they are such a lucrative destination.
Yeah.
You don't need to sign max players. You can bring in all
Oh,
sorts of
100%.
talent from around this league, from players that want to come in and kind of like I compare it to the Patriot way. Like you come in
Yeah.
and you buy into Steve Kerr's philosophy and what this team is trying to do. It's very different from what most NBA teams are doing right now, as far as how they transition from offense to defense and how they play in space and allow their stars to really be talented on their own and to feed off of their own skill set. If they had that luxury, like everyone's going to want to come here. Kevin Durant
Yeah.
wanted to go there, right? I mean, Andrew
Mhm.
Wiggins, he's an all-star now. He's going to be a hot
Yeah.
commodity at some point, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is an open door for players that want to come in and really buy into to the Steve Kerr philosophy and culture. So I don't think they're going to have any issue getting talent going forward. Kind of going
That,
back to what were you going to say?
Oh yeah, because I've had numerous discussions off the podcast on different platforms throughout the internet, and my biggest thing for Golden State, and what I think they lost during the last 2 years of just Steph being Steph and them kind of trying to will their way to playoff
Mhm.
pushes with the Warriors, they've lost that luster because for the longest time they were the buyout destination for damn near every vet minimum guy come
Yep.
buyout season. And what we've seen over the last 2-3 years is players aren't necessarily automatically going over to Golden State.
Mhm.
But with another finals berth, I think we're going to see another shift in that front because they were no longer the shiny hot team.
Mhm.
But I think this just reiterates and re-solidifies them as the destination for a lot of those guys that are looking for their ring. because it's all fun and games to go play with Kevin Durant in Brooklyn or go to LA and play with LeBron. But until we're proven otherwise, Golden State is the destination. And I genuinely think that I'd like to reiterate what you were saying and the fact that, yeah, I think after this year, I would totally assume them to be the favorites for a lot of these buyout guys. But over the last couple of years, I was discouraged myself in terms of the overall prospects of adding to the roster that way, because that's what made them so powerful to begin with, from those 2015 all the way to about 2018, 2019 teams.
As far as Dallas goes, what big men out there do you like for them to kind of either attack in free agency or in the trade market? Because clearly, you know, when they got rid of Porzingis, the Spencer Dinwiddie trade, big question mark, I think. I mean, even at the time and right now, just because of hindsight, obviously they lack size in this last series with Golden State, but somehow their front court played so well enough to beat one of the best front courts in the league in the Phoenix Suns, which is so weird to me. It was so head scratching to me to see them come out on top of that series. I mean, hats off to them, but if they think that they have the big men or the depth at center and power forward to make another run next year, they just don't have it. And I liked the idea of the Spencer Dinwiddie Porzingis swap, but obviously it didn't pan out. Like you can't just rely on Luka to rebound and play the four while also being a guard, having to defend the best scorer, like you'd mentioned, obviously struggled with it. Who are some guys that are just either off the top of your head or that you came up with?
So I'm looking at Spot Track right now, just in terms of all the free agent centers coming off of this year, whether they be unrestricted or restricted. The biggest name in terms of just unrestricted free agents that has played in the league and is under 30 years old, Jusuf Nurkic is an interesting name. I don't believe in Nurkic as the answer for Dallas, but I think a pick and roll with him and Luka could be a very formidable pairing. I'm just not sold on the defensive upside of a guy like that. Obviously, DeAndre Ayton is the big name everyone's going to be talking about over the next 2 to 3 months. I don't see it happening. They're not going to trade.
Phoenix would never allow that to happen. Not after they just lost to them too.
If he's not going to be in Phoenix, I see him going somewhere into the Eastern Conference, i.e. we could see him go to the Hawks or the Bulls. DeAndre Ayton will be in the Eastern Conference if he is not suited up for the Phoenix Suns. Beyond Nurkic, I think Mo Bamba is very interesting. I think Orlando is done with the Mo Bamba experiment. Beyond that, JaVale McGee is going to be a free agent. I think he's a valuable asset to most teams that are trying to compete, not as your starter, but as a depth piece for your bench. Two of the more interesting names in terms of big men for this Dallas roster. One, I absolutely hate as a player, but he's going to provide production, is Andre Drummond. I've made this statement loud and clear to a lot of people that I know. Andre Drummond is not a player that wins basketball games, but if you look for counting stats, he's everything you want and more. A big name they should look for is Mitchell Robinson. He's a guy that has dealt with injuries over the last 2-3 years, and New York doesn't seem to have him in their long-term plans. But he has everything you're looking for in a stereotypical modern-day NBA big, aside from an outside shot. He's athletic, he can run, and he plays really good defense, something that the Mavericks are going to need moving forward throughout their prime years with Luka Doncic. So Nurkic, I think, is number one on the list if you can just outright sign the guy. But I do think if you could get a guy like Mo Bamba on a cheaper deal, or even a guy, like I said, like Mitchell Robinson, and try and pry him away, it's probably more advantageous, especially if you're trying to re-sign Brunson. Because you mentioned Dinwiddie getting traded for Porzingis. In that moment, I saw that as them hedging their bets on Jalen Brunson and saying, we can totally sign and trade this guy if we need to in the offseason and improve the team, and Dinwiddie can slot in as the number 2 as a scoring option.
It just didn't make sense to me, that move, though, because you already had that really efficient production from Luka and Jalen at the 1 and 2, and then you're trading essentially a starter for a 6th man. You know what I mean? For Dinwiddie to come off the bench and fill in, essentially just for Luka to move down the lineup. It wasn't even about, I'm going to go in and grab minutes for Luka. No, we're just going to push Luka down the bench or down the lineup. He's going to get a bigger defender. You know what I mean? It's not going to always create the best outcome, and it worked well at the end of the season, worked well down the stretch. It worked well through the playoffs, but obviously they're not playing in the finals, and all roads are going to lead through Golden State for somebody in the Western Conference, right? Like somebody's going to have to go through them. And I felt like it's like, okay, you beat Phoenix. Their front court is one of the best in the leagues. You should be able to make this a real series with Golden State. So it's really disappointing that wasn't the outcome. Jusuf Nurkic was number one on top of my list.
Mhm.
As far as another free agent, I really like Montrezl Harrell. I think that while he doesn't have the same, like that elite size that you want for a power forward, he has that athleticism, that speed, and that power to play really fast in this offense. So really play well in transition. Another really good guy other than Nurkic, I see playing well in a pick and roll situation with Luka. I like some trade opportunities a little bit more. I like an opportunity for Jeremy Grant. I like looking for a Julius Randle trade. Christian Wood, I think, could be out of Houston at any given point. You mentioned Mo Bamba. Why not Wendell Carter? I don't think that he's like a future piece of the Magic. So I see any of those pieces. Like I don't see Wendell Carter as like a playoff series difference maker, but Wendell Carter, he came to play this year. He had a very good season. As far as Julius Randle goes, he had a bit of a decline this season from 2 years prior, where he had, like player of the year type of play, was putting up 24 and 10 every night. He doesn't really seem that happy in New York. So I see any of those guys as opportunities. What you have to trade, though, I'm just not sure. You're looking at your picks. No one's looking to trade for Dorian Finney-Smith or Reggie Bullock, who the Knicks already had. Dwight Powell, Maxi Kleber. These are not assets that people are going out to get. So you're more than likely, you're probably going to have to move Dinwiddie, or you're going to have to move Brunson, some future picks, and probably get a third party involved and throw around some cash as well. Mark Cuban's got to make up for that Porzingis and Dinwiddie swap. I think he's going to look to make a statement early on in free agency, and maybe even early on with a big trade. Who knows?
Yeah, because for me, this Mavericks team, for as great as Luka is, I think the moves that they've made prior to Luka, because they tried to extend that Dirk Nowitzki prime Mavericks run for quite a while. He was on the roster for a long time. They brought in Luka for Dirk's final year, which was great. But the Mavericks are really hamstrung with the ancillary pieces around Luka Doncic. And now he's going to be he's making $25 more million per year starting next year. Dorian Finney-Smith's contract, he got re-upped, so now it's going to increase by that much percentage for Smith. And then Brunson's going to get paid, which you can just tack on an extra $19 million to his base salary because he's going to get that much.
You got to move that Brunson money then for sure, because taking on those three, like Brunson is good. He's going to score you points, but Luka is a ball dominator. You know what I mean? Like it's his show to run. When it comes playoff time, no matter what, he's going to be the guy with the ball in his hands, pushing the ball up the floor. Like that's going to be the case, unless it's in the third and fourth quarter and Mark Cuban hasn't gotten his Mavericks any reserves and they're using Luka at the 3 or 4. He's not Ben Simmons. Like they need to let him, play with the ball in his hand at the top of the key, not trying to back dudes down, coming off of pick and rolls and easy shots. Like, try to keep it as simple as you can for him. Don't make him do every single thing. It can win you a series or two. He's not going to be able to do it and make a finals run. I loved that debate between Max Kellerman and JJ Redick, where Max Kellerman was saying like, oh, I don't believe Luka's on the same level as like Magic or Bird or all these other great facilitators. And JJ's like, what are you talking about? Like this guy's playing with second round talent. He's playing with the league's leftovers right now. To Dorian Finney-Smith's credit, like I am not a Dorian Finney-Smith stan. He is not a guy that I target in fantasy and props and DFS. While he is pretty affordable in DFS, I'll give him that. He's just not a consistent player. You don't know if he's going to be playing at the 3. You don't know if he's going to be playing at the 4. If he's playing at the 4, God bless him for who he's going against that night. It could be Christian Wood backing him down in the paint, like we were just talking about. Like. Like there are just so many mismatches for him, and he's an athletic player. He's a hard-nosed, give a good effort player, but it's not going to get you to the finals. He's not a guy that you can throw in at the 4 and expect to go up against Golden State or God goodness, even like a team like Denver or Memphis, teams that Golden State beat. Like it's just not going to work. Yeah,
under current construction, Dallas is not talented enough, or they are neither as diverse enough to actually compete at that highest level. Because with Golden State, they've lacked size in the past, but they have been so supremely talented to the point where it really didn't matter. They would run people off of the court, and until they either get Luka Doncic, a transcendent running mate, or some help in the front court, it's just not going to be a winning formula. So I am expecting Jalen Brunson to get signed and traded. He's a really good player. I expect him to be a really solid player. I feel like he could possibly turn into like that Malcolm Brogdon, how the Indiana deal has gone down a little bit, maybe with a little bit more upside. Sure. I like the Randle deal on paper. Julius Randle for your number 1 top scorer on a team. I hate it. Defensively, I think he's a liability at times. But if he's your like
agreed.
secondary piece in an offense, you ask him to play off-ball defense, I think Randle would be a match made in heaven for Luka. He would take pressure off of that on-ball dominant type stuff. And yeah, they have to get creative, and they can't be married to anybody on this roster besides Luka Doncic. Everybody else can go.
I don't even know what type of offer you could get for Randle, though. That's the thing. Like, I throw it out there. I mean, we see weird stuff around the league all the time where we're just like, how did that happen? Like, how were they able to pull that off? But maybe you throw in, whether it's Brunson or Dinwiddie, whatever the Knicks are saying they're feeling, maybe Maxi Kleber, maybe Dwight Powell. I don't know. I don't think that's enough. Dorian Finney-Smith, sure, you like him. You like him. He's yours. Go ahead and take him. Yeah. Reggie Bullock, you want him back? Cool. He's yours. Like, I just don't know if that's going to be the best match. But if they can get a third team involved, move a couple assets around, leverage every single first round draft pick you have for the next 3 or 4 years, whatever it is, they got to pull the trigger on it. I think Nurkic, though, I think he'd be solid. I know you were saying like maybe the defense isn't there, but I feel like the size and the offense alone,
big body,
could be enough.
Yep.
It could be enough. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to switch over, I know, to the Eastern Conference here soon, but if you were asking me like Dallas Mavericks versus the Celtics, I'd probably be picking the Celtics, but I'd expect it to probably still go seven games just based off of the way the two teams play.
Totally, I agree with you. But speaking of the Eastern Conference Finals, you know what's better than 6 games, Justin?
7.
7, exactly.
9?
For all that I saw on Twitter for like the last 3 days was that damn video of LeBron getting beer poured on him. And I was like, Miami doesn't have LeBron, so let's buckle up. And what a game. What a series. It
was very entertaining. Very, very good stuff.
Oh, yeah. It was essentially just a rock fight because nobody really was able to grab a substantial upper hand. Miami was playing with house money a lot of the time with Tyler Hero and Kyle Lowry being banged up. Max Strus became a Miami hero of sorts for a chunk of that series. And Big fan. Ime Udoka and the Celtics, they've completed, or they're close to completing, the greatest single season comeback in NBA history. What are your thoughts, Justin?
I mean, they're an exciting team to watch. I am a big fan of Jason Tatum. I've loved what he's done this season. I'm not gonna lie though. I felt the Kobe stuff was a little corny. I'm just keeping it real. I thought that the armband was cool. I was like, all right, that's cool. I know that like he's a huge fan of his. Like, he played a big role in his career, right? Like, I get that. The text message thing, that was kind of what put me over the top. I was just like, say less. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, you did that. Let it come out during the documentary after you win the ship or something. You know what I mean? Like, why publicize that? Whatever. Big fan of his. Big fan of Tatum. I loved when this team went out and got Derek White. Derek White is one of my favorite fantasy players in basketball. I scoop him up late in all my drafts. He was hurt, I think, last season, 2 seasons ago. So you were able to get him this year at a really big discount. I love a lot of this team. I love Peyton Pritchard, the Williams brothers, Grant and Robert, right? Lots to like about this team. But I like Miami a lot as well. I thought this was a dogfight of a series. You saw Boston come in slow, kind of inconsistent. That's been a narrative of theirs this series. They only won 1 game out of the first 3. They won 3 out of the last 4. That obviously speaks loudly how they finished this series, not how they started it. Love Ime Udoka. Still, it's the Brad Stevens show at the end of the day. Like, it's still his production. So I think we have to really give a big hats off to him and what he was able to do at the deadline. Kemba Walker for Al Horford. Boston fans were screaming. They were going nuts. Like, what? We traded what for what? Shout out Al Horford. He's shown up. Loved the passion at the end of the game, beating down on the floor. Even further than that, the Bucks series up against the Milwaukee Bucks, Al Horford is like, okay, I like that energy, Giannis. I got something for you. The old man came. He showed up. Peyton Pritchard, I don't know if I mentioned him. I'm a big fan of Peyton Pritchard. They've got depth. Like, they are the depth option here coming into the finals as far as roster utility and the way things are built. Miami kind of, checking in with them as far as how they ended the series. I know that there was a lot of critiques of Jimmy Butler taking that 3-point shot with 11 seconds left. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. It's a good look. You're coming in on transition. The Celtics are on their heels. I don't even think the Celtics won that game. I think that they just didn't have enough time to lose it, essentially. Miami's ending that game with a 13-0 run. What are you doing, the Celtics? What are you thinking about right now? Just put it in the basket. Marcus Smart was timid on a couple of opportunities where he could have just iced it with minutes left to play, but Miami trudged on. I do think, Butler probably should have held that ball. Yeah, I don't think he probably should have shot that 3-pointer, because you still could have gotten another look to just win the game and just take the last possession. That was on the table for them there. So you wind down that clock. It's the last possession. You live and die on it, whether it's a 2, whether it's a 3. That's the game. There's no sending the Celtics to the free throw line. So while I am okay with it, mentally, there's some players, some legends, I feel like hang on to that ball. They keep their composure. They let that clock tick down. They let their teammates get up the floor. They look for maybe an option, like, maybe there's a Celtics player that's coming back a little bit too fast, not thinking the same, or not thinking at the same IQ, right? It was the gun was jumped a little bit. Miami, as far as like what they need to fix, I think they go out and they get a heavy hitter at the guard position, which is pretty available this offseason.
Yep. Yeah, that game 7 was crazy. I feel bad for Butler and him getting kind of shilled in the media. Like I can't disagree with him taking the shot. Yeah, without Jimmy, they're not there. It's flow of the game. It's in the moment. You put the ball in your best player's hands and you live with the result.
Absolutely.
And the timing on the clock is the biggest issue. Maybe he thought they didn't have as much time. The shot goes in. Jimmy Butler's the best man on the planet.
Shot goes in. Celtics still have a possession. That's my thing. Fair. Like, even if you hit that 3, you're only up by 1, and now Celtics get the ball last possession, less than 10 seconds.
Yeah,
it's tough.
No, I totally hear you. It's nothing but respect to Jimmy Butler after this series. Everyone that called the Heat the bubble guppies, I think that's finally done. I feel bad for Jimmy in the grand scheme. Aside from Bam Adebayo, I think everybody just kind of packed up their suitcases and just ready to hit the beaches of Miami, because this series was ugly for everyone besides Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo.
Right.
Hero was injured.
Bam had some bad moments too.
He did too. Yes. And me complimenting Bam is just because he's the only other Heat teammate to score in double figures for the series. It got that bad. So the fact that this Miami team, with all of the injuries and just all of the inconsistencies, was able to drag this series to 7, it's a commitment to themselves, but it's also a detriment to the Celtics, because the Celtics were healthier. The Celtics on paper are better, and I think they're just as deep. So whether that,
but they just barely got over them.
Maybe it was a little bit of Spoelstra, a little bit of being there before, but Boston very well could have been at home as we talk right now. But I think it helps them earn their stripes a bit. I'm excited for the finals coming up. Jason Tatum, can't believe it. He's only 19. I'm just kidding. But Jason Tatum, he's finally
not still.
But he's only 19. No, Jason Tatum this entire postseason has put on a show. He's leading the playoffs in total points. Take that with a grain of salt. He's probably played in he's played in more games than a lot of the guys that are still in the playoffs. But Tatum and Brown, that is a tandem that I am willing to not so much bet money on, but I have faith in those two guys. I've watched Brown and Tatum since they've been drafted. And for every deficiency you can poke in Tatum's game, Brown is the perfect complement. While Tatum is not so much this burly, like filled out type defender, Jalen physically can make up for any discrepancies you'll see out of Jason Tatum. And for as frustrating as Marcus Smart has been throughout his career, I think he's finally unlocked something with Ime Udoka. Seeing him go for 16 points in this series was a really nice sighting. Do I expect him to score 20 a game in the finals? Hell no. But if he can give you 13 to 16, that's going to be a great start, especially if he's going to give you that all NBA defense caliber play. My biggest thing with this team and this roster is I think if Grant Williams is actually healthy enough to give them consistent minutes in this series, it probably goes 6. Just because Grant Williams, I think, is a huge difference maker. Whenever he was guarding Bam, it was a major issue for Miami. And you can say all you want about Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero not making their impacts felt. Hero was injured and injuries happen. And Duncan Robinson, his contract is damn near movable.
They had Duncan Robinson on the floor a lot. People just didn't realize it. It's Max Strus. Yeah. Max Strus and Duncan Robinson are absolutely the same person. They're just from 2 different multiverses. How they got them on the same team, I don't know. But run their numbers, run their field goal percentage, run their 3-point percentage, their height, their body build. They look like they're related. Like they're the exact same player. And Max Strus showed up in game 7.
Yep. So shout out to Max Strus. I am very intrigued to see where Victor Oladipo goes in the offseason. He had a really rough series, but I expect him to be back next year and be better as an overall player. I think the talent is still there, and I think the athleticism is going to follow soon. My biggest question for Miami in this offseason, I really look for them to try and add a big free agent guard into the fold, because I do not trust Kyle Lowry as the guy anymore. Kyle Lowry can be your fourth best option on a contending team, but if he's your number 2, you are not looking to go deep into the playoffs.
Right.
There are a few names at shooting guard that I'm looking at right now to where I think I could be confident in them possibly making it out to Miami. If the money's there, I think Zach LaVine is a match made in heaven for this roster.
No,
not at all. Not for you.
Well, I'm a Bulls fan, so
okay.
The thing with Zach LaVine from a Bulls fan is a lot of the media, they like to push out there that, oh, Zach's unhappy that there's another scorer. Oh, Zach isn't happy that all the attention isn't on him. That's absolutely false. That's a false narrative. I don't care what anybody says. Where is Zach LaVine going to go where he's going to be a number 1 star on the team, where he's going to be the premier guy? It's not going to be Miami. You're still going to have Jimmy there. You're still going to have Bam. Does he want to go play for Portland? Does he want to go play for the Trailblazers and be a star that gets all the possessions and gets all the shots? No. People are, he's going to go to the Lakers. Why would he go to the Lakers if that's the narrative?
Even tell you. I'm a Lakers
that makes
fan.
no sense. He's the pulse of our team. He's going to get a max deal. Zach LaVine ain't going anywhere.
I hope so. I like LaVine a lot. I think he's a star anywhere he goes. Offensively, his shot has gotten better. He can drive to the rim better than anybody. But out of all the free agents we're looking at, especially in this shooting guard class, outside of LaVine, I don't think any of the other top guys are moving. I don't expect the team to really outbid Philly for James Harden. Miami, if they were to do that, would just seem a little short-sighted with Kyle Lowry.
What do you think about a guy like Kyrie? I mean, Kyrie and Miami are a match made in heaven. They're a match made in heaven.
Well, then they have to flip Kyle Lowry, is what I'm going to assume there. Are they going to keep him as bench depth?
No problem. I think the Heat will do that, like, not reluctantly. I think they will do that just fine. Well, I like Kyrie. Yeah. We like, what about James Harden? James Harden in Miami. They lamb and tuna fish. I mean.
So if my biggest problem, so I love James Harden. I thought Philly won the trade with the Nets, personally, in my opinion. Obviously, it'll age like milk in the next 5 years. But back to James Harden, if they're having all these issues with a guy like Kyle Lowry, how am I supposed to sit here in good faith and go after a guy like James Harden, who's shown us over
James
the last
Harden scores
years,
30 points a game? I mean, that's why Kyle. When you're playing with a guy like Embiid, that's a little bit of a different story. Like Embiid had a historic season. I don't know how many games or how many stretches where he had 30 plus points in a game. That's a different situation. Come down to Miami, you can be a ball dominator and facilitator. While Jimmy Butler showed up and was the man, he was tired as hell. He played in every damn minute in this last game. That can't be the case anymore. You can't expect him to do that going forward if Spoelstra wants to continue to make these runs. I feel like that's what they need. Like, they need a guy that can dominate the ball at the top of the floor with better handles than Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler's not a facilitator. He's a guy that can attack the lane. And if he's not getting his and one, he's finishing. Like, that's what he can do for you. And sure, he can kick, but that doesn't mean that he's a facilitator just because he can kick out of the paint after driving, right? They need somebody at the top of the key that can dominate, score, and facilitate. I see Kyrie or Harden being either one of those really elite options for the position. A guy that we mentioned earlier, Malcolm Brogdon, I think that's a great opportunity. I feel like you might be able to get a swap there because you're getting, Brogdon's a little bit older. He's not as young and spry as, say, Tyrese Halliburton, who they went out and got from the Sacramento Kings, right? Right. So I feel like that would be a good swap. Who else? Oh, Dame Lillard. All of these guys fit that type of mold that I'm thinking of.
Out of all those players you're listing, James Harden, in my opinion, because I'm not off the James Harden island at all. I think people being mad that he's not averaging 30 is a little bit overblown. He came to Philly and he literally had like the most games of 10 assists out of anybody in the last 2-3 years.
Because he can do that. That's a part of his game.
Performed. And if there's any place that can get James, because the problem with Harden for a lot of people coming out of these last 2 years is he just doesn't look the same physically. His body, he's getting bigger, he's slower, his first step isn't as quick. Miami's the place if you want to reclaim your body. They have a rigorous routine for their players to get them in the absolute best shape. And if Harden's going to
they're called strip clubs.
But if Harden's going to
That's what's on James Harden's diet. It's the buffet at the strip club. I mean, come on. Like, how do you think he put on all the weight in Houston?
Miami is either going to be James Harden's best friend or his worst nightmare. But in terms of upside, I think he would. Well, yeah, but in terms of the front office, they might have to
Right.
just stare at the numbers. But yeah, out of that entire just group of people, Kyrie would be really exciting just because Kyrie, he's as Hollywood as it gets in terms of just NBA players, whether it be off the court or his skills on the court. He's Showtime TV. Like, he does things that you won't see anybody else do on a court, and you'll question the things he does off the court sometimes. But yeah, Harden or Kyrie makes perfect sense for this roster.
If he was mentally available, if he is mentally there, why not Ben Simmons? Why not make a move for Ben? If all the lights are green, if his agent and all of his people are just like, hey, things are good, he's playing basketball, he's talking positive about himself, you know what I'm saying? This is a guy that's ready to exert some revenge. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Like, and all roads are going to lead through
Jimmy
12 feet in the East. You know what I mean?
Ben and Jimmy, I don't think it works though. I think Ben and Jimmy don't get along.
I feel like he kind of fits the mold for them, at least. Just, playing really good defense, hitting open shots,
taking open shots. The cat's still in the bag with Ben Simmons, but the Heat have less questions to answer for me than the Mavericks do. I think we should see them in contention next year. Obviously, Kyle Lowry can't be the starting point guard, and Duncan Robinson, he's got to play defense.
I feel like Duncan Robinson's gone because, like I just said, they got the younger, better version of him and Max Strus. So Robinson's gone for sure. Lowry, I think he's gone too. Gabe Vincent, not a bad bench point guard. Like, I like Gabe Vincent, real effort player. I was talking about Peyton Pritchard, or no, who was the other effort guy I was talking about earlier? Oh, Dorian Finney-Smith. Very similar effort guy. Goes out there and just leaves it all on the floor for you. PJ Tucker got to be gone. Like, I feel like Montrezl Harrell could also be another good name for this roster too, because they need a little bit more athleticism in the paint. And for the love of God, give Omer Yurtseven some more minutes.
Oh yeah,
Omer. Yurtseven was fantastic this season when he was given an opportunity, and they're just like, you know what? Sit down, pal. We got Bam. We're fine. Sit down, pal.
Yeah. Miami should be fine. I expect them to be in the thick of it in the East next year. Not playing material. I expect them to be seeds 5 through 3.
You know why I think that is? Realistically, I don't think it's their roster. If I had to draft coaches only, like if I was doing a fantasy draft for coaches, I got to imagine Eric Spo is top 3.
For me, if it's so, we're just talking drafting the coach, nothing else is in place.
Exactly.
I as great as Popovich has been for the entirety of his career, if I'm just blank slate any team, any players on that roster, I think Spo's won just because of what he's done throughout his career and the players he's had to deal with throughout time. I
got to go Steve Kerr still. I got to go Steve Kerr.
Okay.
I mean, obviously I'm going to be talking him up here in a little bit with the Warriors, but I go Kerr, Spo, and Pop. I think those are the top 3 options. So I was right there with you. Like, I would put Spoelstra ahead of Popovich for sure. I think he's earned that at this point. And just speaking about recent history, like, Popovich has had some opportunities here in the past years, and he just doesn't really attack free agency. I feel like the franchise has become a little bit stale and acquiring players and acquiring talent. They're missing just like that it guy. They couldn't hang on to Kawhi. There's some issues there, right? But at the end of the day, like, his brain, big brain on that guy, and just the type of culture that he brings to his team, I think that those are things that you want, and those are championship level assets that he has. But I think Spoelstra, absolutely, due to recent history, I mean, he's been in the finals of 2 out of the last 3 years, right? I mean, I think we have to give it to him. So Spoelstra's right up there. I think with him at the helm, any of those guards that we had mentioned, I think we would be very excited to see the combination of Eric Spoelstra with Kyrie, Harden, even a Ben Simmons, who I have no faith in whatsoever. I feel like Spoelstra is the guy that could revive his career, that could bring him back, almost like an Arthur Smith, Ryan Tannehill type of situation. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking full CPR stat. Bring him back.
Dion Waiters had a resurgence out in Miami. If that's possible, anything's possible.
Hey, at the end of the regular season, Oladipo actually had 2 games over 30 points. I'm just saying, like, he may not be there yet. I'm just saying, like, he may not be there yet, like 100%, but he could be there. He could be back with this team next year. Imagine we're starting Oladipo at the 2. We're running Kyrie, Oladipo, or Harden, Oladipo, Jimmy, I don't know, old power forward journeyman, and bam, I'll take that lineup to make the finals.
Just give me a Morris twin on some veteran deal.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know what? Low-key move for this offseason for the Heat, Carmelo Anthony coming off the bench at the 4.
Who says no?
He still got it. Still got
shooting, scoring. He can play team defense. Take it from a Lakers fan.
We'll just say that he comes off the bench and scores.
He was one of our best assets this season, which is a sad part for the Lakers team, but he was good.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. You're definitely closer to the situation than I was. So maybe you saw some of the top 5 defensive highlights of his from this season or something.
I'll give him top 50.
Right. Exactly. No, that's what I'm saying. I think that's another prime location for him where they're just like, you know what? Let's get a star. Let's get a stud off the bench. Another scoring pulse, kind of like Jordan Poole we were talking about earlier. I think he's that guy.
Totally. Yeah, I agree. Speaking of agreements, it's time to get into some disagreements, Justin. It's the NBA Finals time. If anybody has their bets to place, this is the week to do it because it's only going to get worse from here. But Boston versus Golden State. Initial thoughts, Justin. How are you feeling?
I got the Warriors in 6. I feel like Warriors in 5 was trending yesterday after the game. I felt like I'm being a little bit kinder going Warriors in 6. I think that the Celtics, they can get some wins in this series. I think that their biggest opportunity is going to come between games 3 and 5, where I respectively believe that they could go potentially 2-1 or 3-0. Like that's their time to really, make haste because I don't see them coming out of the gate, guns a-blazing, ready to light it up on the road in Golden State, where Golden State hasn't lost a game in the playoffs. They are undefeated at home. Celtics, oppositely, are 5-4 at home. Celtics very good on the road. What is it? 7-2 on the road. Very good. But I don't believe that they're going to beat Golden State on the road. If they somehow split that series, then you look to that game, that segment of games 3 to 5 as a huge difference maker. Because if they can somehow come out of Golden State 1-1, they go home with 2, and you have to feel comfortable that the Celtics might be able to pull off at least one road win. They've played well on the road. I feel like maybe they're mentally a little bit looser. Boston is a very tough place to play. It's a very loud place to play. Oddly enough, if you look at the regular season, Golden State beat Boston in Boston, and Boston beat Golden State in Golden State. The odds in this series right now, Celtics are the dogs at plus 129, and the Warriors at minus 149 favorites. So it's a coin flip right now, according to the books here. I lean Warriors. Love the experience. We were talking about with Klay Thompson. They've made the finals essentially in 6 straight seasons. The team itself has made the finals in 6 out of 8. They're a real dynasty between Klay, between Steph, and between Draymond, and all the other pieces just fill in and buy into what I was talking about earlier, the scheming and culture of Steve Kerr. I mean, I don't think that the Nuggets, the Grizzlies, and the Dallas Mavericks were nothing to knock off of. I do like the Celtics competition coming into this, but they've been very close. They've been coin flips themselves the past 2 series, winning back-to-back series by going a full 7 games. Albeit against good competition, they're just not a team that I feel like gives me enough confidence to say, like, yes, they're going to be able to slay the dragon. They're going to be able to take down Goliath. I can't buy them being that roster, or buying that narrative, rather. The team that started 23-25, they finished 26-6. It's amazing. It's a great story. But 12-6 in the playoffs, the Warriors are 12-4. I still feel like they're the real machine to take down, and I don't think the Celtics are the ones to do it.
Okay. Boston versus Golden State for me feels like the unstoppable force meeting that immovable object of sorts, because Golden State is the institution. Stephen Curry, Draymond, and Klay have been arguably the face of the Western Conference for the better part of the last decade. Boston has been amazing, to say it shortly. After January, they have gone on a run that I haven't seen in a long time in terms of competitive basketball. I like Boston for a lot of reasons in this series. I don't know if I can outwardly say that Boston wins the series, because I don't want to be disrespectful to the Warriors, because every time they've come into a series, like even in 2015, it's like, oh, well, it's LeBron James and the Cavs. Golden State won. 2016, Iguodala gets blocked. Then Kevin Durant comes, all this stuff. Steve Kerr is a great coach. Regardless of how you cut it, Steve Kerr's management of personalities and players and talent and rosters, it works. Regardless of how you feel about him as an individual or how he builds those rotations, whenever it comes down to it, he puts the players in the court, and more often than not, they win games. And that's the entire point of all of this. Ime Udoka versus Steve Kerr might be the biggest mismatch in this series, and I think that matters in the grand scheme. If the
Sure.
Boston Celtics are to win this series, I do not see it in anything less than 7 games because these teams are they are very evenly matched. I think the biggest problem I have with Boston in this series is if you look at the Warriors' strengths, offensively, they are the best team in the playoffs. There's no disputing that whenever they are on, they are damn near unstoppable. Boston has been one of the best defenses in basketball for the greater part of this year, but their offense has been rather start-stop from time to time. It's Tatum, then it's Brown, Marcus Smart. He pitches in a little bit here and there, but it's not this fluid, free-flowing, just point after point after point after point. They get into these rock fights a lot of the time in this playoff run, where you'll see games where Boston beats a team by 20, then loses by 15 the next night. Golden State doesn't do that. Like, yes, they will have their off night or an off quarter, but what we've seen from Golden State throughout this entire playoff run is they effectively only beat themselves. From what we've seen, Denver, Memphis, and even Dallas, if they come out shooting slow in a series, they get down big, they can even come back with their bench guys in that game against Dallas. Go ahead.
Game 4, that's right. So in game 4, they were down by about 21, 19 points, kind of going back and forth between that margin, and they were able to come back. When they did that, I'm not kidding, Devin. I said, this team is winning the NBA Finals. I don't care who comes out of the East. It could be the Heat. It can be the Celtics. It doesn't matter. This team, you cannot put them in a hole that they can't get out of, okay? The Celtics, they hurt themselves time and time and time again. And where their defense is good, Golden State's defense is just as good. If you look at defensive rating, it's kind of like an advanced stat in the NBA. Defensive rating. Boston actually ranks number 2. The Warriors rank number 1. The differential that they have is that Boston actually has scored more points per game and more total points this season. But that 26-6 finish to end the year, they had a very favorable schedule that was riddled with the bottom of filth of the Eastern Conference and even somewhat of the Western Conference. They beat a Golden State team in that stretch that was missing Clay and maybe some other pieces. I think Otto Porter was playing a key role in their last matchup. Not ideal, right? So these are two different teams as far as consistency and intelligence go. When you look at, I was going by quarter scoring, Devin. When you look at the Celtics, they have had, in their last 4 games, 8 quarters with less than 25 points. Okay.
Yes.
The Warriors, out of 16 quarters, just the same, have only had 5. A little bit different scenario. If you look across the playoffs in its entirety, the Celtics have had 24 of 72 quarters with less than 25 points. The Warriors, conversely, 18 out of 64. So the percentage is about 5 points difference. 33% of the quarters played by the Celtics in the playoffs, they have scored less than 25 points. The Warriors, 28%. I took it a little bit further than that. If you go less than 20 points in a quarter, the Warriors have only done this 3 out of 64 quarters in the playoffs. That's less than 0.5%. It's like 0.46. The Celtics, Devin, 13%, 10 out of 72 quarters. They've scored less than 20 points. That is not going to be acceptable up against the Golden State Warriors. It's just not the same level of competition. When you look at the totals we were getting in the Miami series, 202, 204, 206. What is going on? Like, this is playoff basketball. It's all about scoring. How can the totals be this low? And that's because the competition in Miami, it's just not on the same level as scoring, right? You had mentioned earlier, like, how can the Warriors take on 2 stars, And in each of these series, they only had to manage Luka. They only had to manage Ja. Ja didn't even play the entire series. Against the Nuggets, they only had to manage Nikola. Well, you know what? Those are three of the top 5 stars in the NBA right now. You know what I mean? Like, they are the end-all, be-all. Luka, you mentioned earlier, top 5. He's top 2. He's top 3. Yeah. He's right there. If you're talking fantasy basketball, Luka's your first pick. He's got the highest usage in the league, period, right? Like, he's the guy. When you look at Tatum and you look at Brown, I kind of poke a little bit of fun, but, Tatum comes up to Brown at the end of that game and says, they said we couldn't do it together. Hey, brother. You know what I'm saying? We said they couldn't do it together. We're going to the finals. Like, you're going to need a lot more scoring than what you've had. You cannot have those bad starts, bad finishes, right? 13-0 run from the Heat to end that game. Jimmy Butler makes that 3. We have no idea what's going to happen. They only needed a field goal, 1 field goal to ice that game with under 2.5 minutes, and they could not do it. And we watched guys miss open looks. So when I look at these two teams and I'm saying, who do I trust to put my hard-earned money on? The Celtics just aren't there. And I don't think Udoka is going to be on his own. He's going to have Brad Stevens. He's not going to be on the sideline with him, but he's going to have the personnel around him to help get him through this series. But I just can't see them winning more than 2 games. I just can't do it. They haven't played well enough at home. I don't think they're good enough to beat the Golden State Warriors on the road. That's as simple as that.
And to piggyback on your statement about me talking about Nikola Jokic, Luka, Ja, and how the Warriors haven't had to stop a tandem of 2 players, I'm not going to sit here and act like Boston's beaten the healthiest teams on this run.
Sure.
That series against Milwaukee, I think if you inject Chris Middleton into that series, I think Milwaukee's probably in the finals. That's just the way that I see it. Giannis,
I do not argue with that at all.
He's the best guy on the planet. I don't think I can dispute that. He is the be-all, end-all in the NBA. He hasn't played in about 2 weeks or so. He still leads the entire playoffs in rebounds, total rebounds for the entire playoff.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. His only issue was that he didn't have a jump shot, and he missed Chris Middleton, who has a jump shot. Yeah. That's as simple as that. You can't rely on Giannis to be chucking up those threes, and they let him do it. I can't stand the argument that the announcers and the media always have, like, well, he's that guy. He's that dude. No. He does everything for you, so you're allowed to let him shoot as many threes as he wants. No, stop it. Coach him. Tell him to stop it. Give him the Ben Simmons treatment. Stop shooting threes. Yeah, you're going to make some. Duh. No, you're in the NBA. Hello. Like, you're going to make a 3-pointer every now and again. Don't shoot 14 of them. Don't shoot 6 of them. Don't shoot 8 of them. Shoot 3, shoot 2, shoot 1, and let that be it. And they will have so much more success. It's really frustrating.
100%. But as much as it pains me to say it, genuinely, I can't even pick the Celtics in good faith. I'm a Lakers fan. So if I'm going to include my bias, take out my bias, whatever you want to call it, I think I'm siding with you, Justin. I can't lie. Golden State, for whatever flaws they may have had throughout the season, and for all the adversity Boston has gone through, let's not act like Golden State hasn't dealt with the same stuff this postseason and even the regular season. Klay Thompson, he came back this year off of 2 catastrophic injuries back-to-back. Draymond Green missed a massive stretch of the season where the Warriors effectively cratered. And even with that, they still have home court advantage in the finals. This team has weathered every storm that has been thrown at them. And regardless of how people feel about it, Stephen Curry is the best player in this series. And it's not as close as people think it is. Jason Tatum has arrived, but I don't think Jason Tatum is on that level of a Stephen Curry. So the coaching, I think the Warriors get the edge. Best player on the court, Warriors have the edge. Experience, Warriors have the edge. Whenever we're taking all of these individual aspects of what's going to make this series come to fruition, I have to agree with you. The Warriors are a little undeniable. It's going to be really hard to see Boston beating them 4 times in 7 games, especially if everyone's healthy and on the court.
They could be up by 15. They could be up by 20, and I'm still going to be sitting there laying live money on the Golden State Warriors because, again, they are that team. And we have seen many times in the playoffs where Celtics just run cold. They just run cold. They're up big. They started on a 9-1 lead with this last game. You know what I'm saying? It was 9-1, 9-2 to start. They blew that in good time. They were actually they were up even by more than that. Actually, what am I talking about? They were up by 18 at one point in Game 7, and they blew that. They kept themselves in it. You know, they have that roster. They have the depth to do it. It's just that up against a very intelligent team, up against the Golden State Warriors, you can't go in those holes. As you know, a defense, you can't allow your opponent to go on those 10-0, 13-0, 15-0 runs. Whatever, 15-2, 13-2, it won't matter. You know what I mean? They're that team that does that. They also play very poorly after they win. So even if they win, let's say Game 1 or Game 2 or even their first game at home, they're not a team that you necessarily trust to just go right back to even. You know what I mean? I feel like if they are winning this series, what the Celtics need to win is to attack the paint. You need to get Klay in foul trouble. You need to get Dre in foul trouble. Kevon Looney, we said he's underrated, but you get him in foul trouble and you will start to chip away at that depth of the Golden State Warriors. Attack the paint, get easy buckets, and try to get to the free throw line because that's where I see the biggest opportunity for the Celtics. They're one of the best free throw shooting teams in the league. I believe as a team, they shoot 86.1, 86.3%, very high, top 5 in the league. If they can get to the line, they're going to have a shot in this one. If they can get Dre in foul trouble, whether it's on the road, at home, whatever, they're going to have their shot. That's their biggest opportunity. I don't know where the referees are going to be leaning. I don't have any fun referee stats. Maybe when we get closer, we can chop that up on the old Twitter machine.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I completely agree. Boston has they have edges in the series, but they're going to have to exercise them often and very frequently. Because my biggest thing too, we talked about this earlier. Whenever I was talking about Klay Thompson, can he be their second primary defender on whoever's they're going to throw a lot of different looks. But I do think Klay Thompson is better served in this series comparatively to, say, a Memphis series whenever John Morant's out there and Desmond Bane, quicker guards that can get to the rim. Jaylen Brown is strong, but I don't think Jaylen Brown is like light years faster than Klay Thompson, and the same thing with Jaylen Brown. Or not Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum's game isn't predicated off of breakaway speed. It's just smooth ball handling and just body positioning a lot of the time, and his footwork gets him a lot of open shots. So for Klay's deficiencies as a on-ball defender laterally that I've seen this year, this isn't the series where I'm super worried about him. So,
well, let me ask you on the opposite side of that. Who do you think is going to guard Wiggins? Is it going to be Jaylen Brown or is it going to be Jason Tatum? Because, we've been talking a lot like, how they're going to stop this tandem. But conversely, how are they going to stop Klay? How are they going to stop Wiggins? Who's going to take who there? Because Tatum doesn't match up well size-wise up against Klay or Wiggins. Jaylen Brown does. Jaylen Brown matches up very well physically with both of those guys. He can't take them both. You know what I mean? Tatum's a good on-ball guy, but when you get him down to the paint, you can leverage your athleticism and size over him. Yeah,
which is why I think Tatum probably is the primary guy on Klay. I think they throw Tatum on Klay, try and chase him around the perimeter, limit the jump shots, because Klay off the dribble, he was working on it before the injuries, but he's still working on it today. Like, he was never the most efficient player. Yeah.
In this offense, he just doesn't have to be that guy, though. You know what I mean? Like, the way that they move everybody around, it's so fast. You're not going to be able to keep up with him every single possession. And I honestly think Klay has he's still lost a step. He is not an explosive, get to the basket type of guard now. He is being used in very strategically by Steve Kerr and himself. I always see him out there just being like, I feel like he's not moving a lot, but he's moving very intelligently. Every direction has a purpose. Every movement has a purpose. And it's whether it's actually free flow or if it's just an actual play that's being drawn up in live time, by whatever the opposite guard that's trying to either get him off of a screen or find him in space. I just feel like his baskets are just like, man, like that was easy. Oh, that was easy. I just feel like I'm saying that all the time.
Yeah, no wasted movement in terms of Klay. And just in that offense in general, everyone has a spot and they're always in it, damn near. It's the freedom of movement that Golden State has. You can't compare it to any other offense.
Far away from each other.
Yeah.
Like, if you watch tape, it's just like they are so far away, and the passes from like across from one corner to the opposite top of the key. It's like zoom. It's like that Dennis Rodman meme.
off the rim, this way, that way, spins.
It's like that though. It really is. Like, I'm not saying that we're watching like the next Last Dance or anything, but it feels like that. Like, when I think of like a way to describe it, that's what comes to my head. I guess that's like we're in the future now. Like, when you think of things like you're like, oh yeah, that meme, right? Got it.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, I think it sounds like we're in agreement. So Golden State in 6, it looks like. Do you have someone you're looking towards for the Finals MVP, or someone that you think could be?
It's got to be Steph.
It's got
to be Steph. I mean, if I'm putting money on it, I would hedge it with Steph and Wiggins. But even at the end of the day, like, I just don't see Wiggins having that factor, like being that X factor in the series where just like we're all sitting here going like, man, if they didn't have Andrew Wiggins, like this would be over. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, Steph is still going to be the one with his foot on the Celtic throat, on the Leprechaun's throat. Every possession, he's going to be hitting ridiculous deep threes. He's going to be pushing the pace. Oh, they're up by 10. Oh, he's hitting it, from the logo to put them up by 13. Stuff like that. Like, he is going to be that guy. If I had to hedge with a Celtics player, I think it's really simple. You go with Jason Tatum. They were talking about the Larry Bird Award before this last game, and it's just like, how do you not have Jason Tatum winning the Larry Bird Award? You know what I mean? Like. And if you're a Celtics player, in my head, I'm like, how do you let Jimmy Butler win the Larry Bird Award? That's not cool.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you wouldn't be let back into Boston if that was the case, or pretty reluctantly, So I feel like you just go with your gut with the stars. I just don't like. I don't think Jaylen Brown's going to come in and take over against the Warriors. I mean, do you have any like real like dark horses that you're just like, hey, I'll take the plus 800 or plus 1,000 on that guy? Like, I just don't see it.
The only player that I think has a shot outside of Stephen Curry for the Warriors would be a guy like Andrew Wiggins, but he would need to fully elevate himself. Yeah. Or he'd have to like take Jason Tatum out of the series. It would be something like it not even then, because Jason Tatum isn't LeBron in his prime. Because whenever Iguodala got it, it was the peak of LeBron James. And even then, Iguodala slowed him down to like 28, 8, and 7. But
technically Iguodala could play in any one of these games, right?
He could, yeah. For all we know, it's
still
Iguodala.
there. So I think he hasn't played in like 12 straight games or something like that. It's been a while. But could you imagine him coming in and just like being like, oh, there's Iguodala from 4 years ago. They rested him 14 games. He's fine. Like, you guys are screwed.
Two-time Finals MVP. Andre
you guys
Iguodala.
are screwed. Secret weapon.
Man, Chemical X for sure. I think Steph has to win it. I don't think there's anybody on the team that is going to be able to have the impact. Maybe Draymond, if for some reason he pulls out the 2016 throwback, like at the Game 7 where he put up 30 plus. But yeah, this is the series Steph has. It's his to lose. If they lose the series, he doesn't get the award. If they win the series and it doesn't go to him, something weird has happened, because it's more his team than any team we've seen over the last decade. This is Steph's Warriors.
Absolutely. He's the face of the dynasty. Yeah. Like, I mean, like,
exactly.
Like, Jordan had Pippen, he had his Clay, you know what I mean? And that was it really. Like, they rotated everybody else in. That's all it was. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. These guys, they got Draymond Green. It's pretty nice. It would be like if the Bulls had Rodman the entire time, which they didn't. Yeah. Come on.
It's So Golden State in 6. Steph Curry, congratulations! You got to make some room in that trophy case. But
So speaking of the 6, I really believe it. I took the series at 4-2. Warriors win at plus 475. Well, actually, the plus 475 is just the series total. So Warriors 4-2. That's it. So they could do it however they want. But that's how much I believe in it. I took it at plus 475. Oddly enough, the books have the Celtics, who are not favored to win the series, favored to win at plus 350 the series 4-2. I don't see it. I feel like that's a trap, but respectfully, take your bets into your own accord. It's tough for me to lay any money on the Celtics. Maybe I could get them at home, maybe like a game by game basis. If they play really well in game 2, maybe I'll if they finish strong but maybe still lose, I would still maybe attack them to win outright in game 3. But I do think that they'll cover some games. I think the Warriors are early 3-point favorites. I think we're going to need a couple of games of them playing like under that number and blowing them out by like 8 or 10 to get a number that I'd feel comfortable for the Celtics to cover. Like, if the Celtics got plus 7 at home, I would take it. If it's still around 3 to 4 points, I'm not going to take it.
Gotcha. No, Boston has an opportunity in game 1. I think if they cannot capitalize on that opportunity and kind of hit Golden State while they're getting back into the swing, because Golden State's on a break. So Boston kind of has to come into Oracle and punch them in the mouth. Or the Chase Center, actually. RIP Oracle.
They get some rest, though. I mean, because obviously Golden State's had a lot of rest. They've played 2 less games, and they played 2 days less than the game 7. So, and then everybody gets to wait until Thursday. So everybody, I feel like, is going to come in rested. But like you said, a huge opportunity for the Celtics. Like, they can blow the door open if they feel like they're getting the Warriors playing a little bit more lax, or not playing as sharp coming off of just a game 5 win.
Because that's the one thing with Golden State that I've seen throughout Kerr's run. Sometimes they cannot be fully engaged. The finals, we've never seen them come in and be like playing around with their food. But if Boston can catch them on their heels for that first half and kind of build a bit of a lead, if they sneak game 1, I think it's anybody's series. But if I'm betting money on it, Golden State in 6 for sure. Just because.
Agreed.
Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, can't get fooled again. And the Warriors in the finals, aside from LeBron James turning into the greatest basketball player on the planet, reaffirming the greatest basketball player on the planet, and Kawhi Leonard going on the most absurd run in all of damn near the 2010s. Like, it takes basically acts of God.
I don't think Brown or Tatum are either of those guys. So here we are.
Yeah. In this dynasty, it's taken Zeus striking down the Warriors with thunder, or Zeus himself taking the court for them to lose a final series. So
not wrong.
Boston's got to re-up the Greek mythology if they want to win this series, it looks like. But Justin, it's been a pleasure having you on. Have any stuff you're working on you want to plug before we're out of here?
Yeah, absolutely. You guys can find me at Take It to the Hizzy Fantasy Sports. You can find me on Twitter at TITTHJB. And I also host podcasts and author articles with SGPN, the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. You can find us over there at Gambling Podcast.
Sweet. Well, I just wanted to say thank you again for stepping in for the guest spot, Justin. We're always happy to have you. We look forward to having you back, hopefully, for some NFL coverage once the division previews start. But yeah, here's to the finals. Here's to Justin making more money off of the Golden State Warriors. And from all of us to everybody at home, peace.
Take care.